PJ Haggerty is gone, along with the rest of the fighting Penny Hardaways, and now the replacements are going to try to help Memphis get to the second weekend of the NCAA Tournament for the first time since 2009.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Monday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there, where your host, this handsome fella, is Andy Patton. That beard's looking nice and thick, Andy. You're getting into fall mode early, and I'm here for it. I love it. I'm Isaac Schade. We're so glad to be here with you. You're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Reminder also that you can catch every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your very first purchase. Also, want to extend a special welcome to the everydayers here with us and all the great members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. That link is in the show notes. We'd love to see you in the lead up to the season, which, oh, by the way, starts 8 weeks from today. Oh, baby. Today, speaking of which, we got to help you get ready for it. So it's going to be our 11th team preview. Andy, we've already done UConn, Indiana, Marquette, Illinois, Bama, St. John's, Purdue, Arizona, Gonzaga, and Michigan. By the way, you can check out our playlist, which is up here in the corner. Andy's going to put it up there later in post-production like magic. Yay! A playlist with all of those shows. And today, we bring to you the Memphis Tigers. It's year 8 for Penny, an entirely new roster. Literally, I'm not even exaggerating. And the question is, even with that, can they continue to dominate the American newly named conference? Get rid of that second A in there. Andy, a quick note as we get ready to get into this. Unfortunately, we learned late last week, Andrei Stojakovic transferred to Illinois. Their presumed starting 3 has a knee injury and is out. No set timetable yet. Hopefully, the Illini can get him back sooner rather than later. Best thoughts there. Andy, tell us what Memphis did last year, and let's talk some storylines here.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal season for Memphis last year in the regular season, which is, I think, a trend that we have seen from this team quite a bit in the Penny Hardaway era. They won 29 games last year. They went 16-2 in what was at the time the AAC, what, as you alluded to, is now the American Conference. So 16-2 in conference play, 29-6 overall. They won the conference tournament. They won the regular season by 2 games over North Texas, and then they won that conference tournament, beat Wichita State, Tulane, and UAB, the fighting Yaxel Lendebergs last year. Got in the NCAA tournament with a 5 seed, was kind of feeling like, hey, this is the year Penny's going to get this team to the Sweet 16. They're going to potentially make some noise. They obviously had some phenomenal talent on that roster, but things did not go the way they wanted them to when they got into the big dance. They lost to 12 seed Colorado State, a very, very red hot Rams team. That was, I don't know if they were underseeded necessarily, but they were the 12 seed that nobody wanted to face without a doubt. And unfortunately, Penny drew that team and was not able to get a W over that club. It was an insane season for PJ Haggerty. I think that was the biggest storyline for this team last year, outside of the overall success of the club, was PJ Haggerty being not only the conference player of the year, he was a consensus second team All-American. He led the conference with just under 22 points per game. He was 3rd nationally, just a tremendous player. And I think arguably the biggest storyline for them in the offseason was not being able to retain PJ Haggerty. They obviously were hoping to get him back. He entered the transfer portal, declared for the draft, decided to end up staying in college basketball, transferring over to Kansas State.
As we all expected, Andy.
Ended up being a trade as Memphis acquired Doug McDaniel from Kansas State in the transfer portal. So we'll talk more about their new look roster, but Haggerty out the door. They were hoping to get Dane Dainja back. He had applied for a waiver to come back for another year of eligibility. Unfortunately for him, the NCAA denied that waiver request, and Dainja is out the door, along with, as you alluded to, literally every single player that was on this team last year. It was a great year, and now Penny's going to be starting over from scratch.
Ooh, Andy, it's crazy stuff. 13 transfers, 2 freshmen. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But it's funny, like, we say that, and it still feels like it's crazy. But in this day and age, it's really not. The thing is, though, I feel like we usually see it when there has been a coaching change, like at BYU last year or Kentucky. I feel like it's obviously going to be more rare when the coaching staff is still intact. It's just the nature of the beast sometimes. And so we'll talk more about that. But Andy, one of the other things is kind of hard to believe we are here, but this is now year 8 for Penny Hardaway in Memphis. I can't believe it's been that long, coming out of Tubby and Passner before him, and obviously Cal before him. Anybody else in there? Just those 3 guys. Yeah, crazy. And Penny has won 20 games every season. I know that's not quite the benchmark it once was, but still there is some level of consistency there. Last year, most overall wins he's had, fewest losses, the best conference record the Tigers have had under Penny. So they're moving in the right direction. But Andy, even still, as you said, that first round loss, and the last time, Andy Patton, that Memphis made the second weekend of the tournament, the Sweet 16, was 2008-9 season, Cal's final season before going to Kentucky. It's crazy that it's been that long. And I know Memphis is not at the high major level, right? High major team at the mid-major level, if I can phrase it that way. And so when you look at it, here's what they've done in the Penny era. 2019 NIT, 2020 COVID. They would have made the tournament, I believe, if I remember, back, had like 22 wins, something like that. 2021, they won their postseason tournament. Oh, but it was the NIT again. A 9 seed, lost in the second round. 23, the 8 seed. That was that infamous loss to FAU before the FAU
water bottle.
Penny got mad, threw a chair, that whole thing. What's up, Coach Knight? 2024, lost in the first round of the ACE tournament. Didn't make any postseason after that. And then last year, we already talked about what they did. So, Andy, have not made the second weekend under Penny or under any coach since 2009. Is like, does that matter? I guess maybe is how I want to ask it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it absolutely matters. I think you're looking at a team that, the conference that they're in has gotten significantly weaker. Yeah. They lose Houston, they lose Cincinnati, they lose Central Florida, in this big change for the American Athletic Conference. They bring
SMU.
SMU. They bring in some decently quality programs to kind of replenish, but it's not nearly as deep. And so now it's more challenging to get a high seed. It's more challenging. I think good Memphis teams, some of these good Memphis teams were 8-9 seeds. And it's like now a good Memphis team that even wins the American Athletic Conference, like that's kind of where you're going to be. Like, you're going to have to be great to be above that dreaded 8-9 line. And a good example of that is their net ranking recently. It's just plummeted in the last couple of years. They were in 2021, they were 35th. And then the next year they were 31st. And then 2023, they were 22nd. And then these last 2 years, it was 75th and 49th. And we'll talk about their non-conference schedule later in the show. And I think that, let's put it this way, Penny's pretty darn aware of their net ranking dropping, and they're doing things to alleviate that. And I think that's a very smart move, but it puts a lot more pressure on you as a team to when your regular season is going to be more challenging and getting a higher seed's more challenging. And now it's like you have this huge streak of not even making the Sweet 16. And if you're going to be in this, purgatory where you're constantly between a 7 and a 10 seed, that's really tough. And that's what makes finally getting a 5 seed, having a near 30-win season and putting yourself in a position where you dominated your conference. It was something that we'd been wanting to see Memphis do for a while, and they finally did it. They dominated, got that 5 seed, which was completely deserved, and still didn't advance. And that it just, I think there's a very real possibility that we look at that loss to Colorado State as a potential like beginning of the end type situation where it's like that was the year where it needed to happen. And because it did not happen, the odds of it happening this year or next year are even lower, and to the point where it could be the reason that Penny does not get to the Sweet 16 as the head coach at Memphis. Like, I feel like it's that significant for them.
But I also wonder, like, because Memphis is kind of an entity unto its own, like we have in a few other mid-major conferences, like, does that make them uniquely desirable for higher major talent to transfer there? Even, in a similar, like, to get like Power 5 level talent at Memphis, despite like Andy, how many AAC teams finished in the top 100 in the net last year, including Memphis?
I would guess 3, 4,
2.
Geez, that bad?
Memphis and North Texas.
That's it.
UAB was 106. They were third best. North Texas 65th. The bottom 4 were all outside the top 200, and the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The bottom 7, this is a 13-team league. We're all outside the top 150, Andy. And so, I mean, I think all of that is a factor and is going to play into what you were saying earlier. And we'll talk about the non-con here in a second, that they've done a really good job there. So, Andy, can we big picture this a little bit? We know that Memphis has been desperately trying to escape this American Conference. Do you see that as a viable thing and if so, how soon can they make it happen?
Yeah, I'm really interested in as somebody who follows the Pac-12, the new rebuilding Pac-12. Like, Memphis has been a part of those conversations for so long, and there's been a lot of like different proposals on how this might work, and a lot of people who are Pac-12 fans have really felt like, well, let's add Memphis football. And then Memphis, the rest of their sports can get picked up by the Big East, which was something that had been discussed. I've talked to a lot of people affiliated with the Big East who do not think that is a very likely thing to happen. And I think it seems like a really good situation for Memphis, who would get good money from the Pac-12 and the Big East. But I don't think that the Big East is going to do it. At that point, the Big 12, if they wanted Memphis by now, they would have taken Memphis. They haven't taken them. A few years from now, if the ACC, which people have been talking about that conference falling apart for a few years now, if it actually does happen and there are some major departures and they need to backfill, I think Memphis makes some sense there. But this conference is not this team is not in a great spot. Like, they're a desirable non-power conference program, but there's not a lot of opportunity right now for them to go anywhere. To your previous point, I do think that Memphis is in a spot where even a new coach, they're such a well-known brand that they will be able to recruit and add players in the transfer portal. They have the backing financially that it's like a new coach won't automatically put them on par with like South Florida and North Texas and the other schools in their conference. Like, they'll still be a leg above, but yeah, they got to find their way out of there, or else they're going to be caught holding the bag. And I think that's what they're afraid of right now.
And we'll keep our eyes on it, Andy. Going to be really interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Well, like we said a couple of times now, Isaac, there are 13 new transfers on this roster, pair of freshmen as well, but nobody more important to this team's success this upcoming season than former Kentucky and Ohio State big man Aaron Bradshaw. We're going to talk about him and the rest of this new look team coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keeps you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. And if you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make this whole process even smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, Isaac, continuing our conversation here about the Memphis Tigers. We've talked about how this is a brand new look roster. We're finally going to get into that now. We know Doug McDaniel. We talked about Aaron Bradshaw. Those are two. But, Isaac, lots of other new faces. Can you talk to us about this new Memphis roster?
Well, first off, with McDaniel and Bradshaw, I love that we got an Ohio State, Michigan dudes having to come together here, which I know, it's like, in this day and age, it doesn't matter as much, but still, it's kind of fun. Yeah, I mean, Sincere Parker coming over from McNeese doesn't, a lot of times when coaches transition from a mid-major up, you wonder how many will follow the coach. Obviously, several went with Will Wade over to NC State, but Sincere Parker does not, and Memphis is the beneficiary, and I think they will take him. Thank you very much. Going to be really interesting to see. I mean, the funny thing is it's guys from all over the place, right? And so we've got other guys from the high major level, Curtis Givens, the third, 18th. No, the 18th. I think that's it. No, the third coming over from LSU. Another SEC player, Zach Davis, coming from South Carolina. And then we got guys from all over the place. Quante Berry from Temple, Julius Thedford from Western Kentucky, Ashton Hardaway, coming back from St. Mary's. Arap from Columbia. Love our double named guys here on this show. Mason Matthews coming over from a D2 school, Lane College. William Wharton from South Dakota State. There's been a lot of guys that have transferred out of there that have had success. Hassan Abdul Hakim coming down from UTRGV, Rio Grande Valley, from right down there on the border. And then Thierno Silla from SFA, Stephen F. Austin. Andy, that is your 13-man transfer class.
Just an insane group of players. But I like what you said. Like, you got some high major guys, guys coming over from the Big 10, Big 12, from the SEC. And then you got some guys from like really quality mid-major programs like Temple and Western Kentucky and McNeese. And I mean, St. Mary's, I guess, if we count Ashton Hardaway coming back, that does count, but it's, he didn't play a ton for the Gales. And then you got, some lower level guys and the D2 guy. Like, it's just going to be a really unique mix of talent here for this team. I'm really interested to see how it all goes together. And they also have a pair of freshmen coming in. One of them is Daniel Vieira-Tuck, who's going to redshirt this year, so we won't spend a lot of time on him. And the other one is Simon Majak from South Sudan, 7'1" big man. And I think there's a handful of players that could be labeled as like X factors or breakout candidates or kind of like, significant pieces. And to me, Majak is absolutely one of them, as this team is just really not have a lot of depth in the front court. And I think that's a big part of looking at this roster construction. I don't think there's any debate that there is a lot of talent here. McDaniel was a very productive college player. Bradshaw has had tremendous upside that has not been tapped into fully yet. Parker was great. Givens and Davis were both productive in the SEC. Like, there is talent on this roster, but you and we struggled to figure out how to put together a starting five for this team because the talent doesn't seem to all line up at specific positions. And I think that's the biggest question that I have is there's a lot of great guards on this roster, and Penny will find a way to get a lot of talent out of that backcourt. But I'm pretty darn concerned about this team's front court.
And size, right? Like, and Andy, I think what you were saying there brings me to the thing that I'm watching all the time now in this era is who can do roster construction year after year the best, and not just getting the best players, but getting the players who fit. And it's hard to tell, right? Like, we are sitting here unsure of how it fits. Penny and staff could be looking at this and they might see how all the pieces fit and like, oh man, this and that and all, oh man, that's going to fit perfect and great. That's cool. But sometimes it can be really hard to see. And when you look at it last year, it was so obvious because there was PJ Haggerty and there was Tyrese Hunter, who, you got PJ who's so bucket. He's a bucket. And Tyrese Hunter, who's like, man, I'll lock you down. And then you got Moose Cisse and Dane Danger, these just brutes in the front court and a whole mix of players. And so it just was easier to see it. Does that mean it's going to fall apart? Absolutely not. But it might take a little bit of time to come together. Andy, you said we had a little bit of trouble landing on our starting five. Ultimately, who did you come up with?
Well, I will tease part of yours. Both of us kind of came up with four that we felt fairly confident in, and then struggled a lot on figuring out that fifth piece. For me, backcourt, I had McDaniel and Parker. I think that seems pretty clear to me. And I think Zach Davis is going to start for this team as well. He averaged 8 points a game in the SEC last year. Yes, it was at South Carolina, but he played 28 minutes a game for a team in the SEC. Like, I would be stunning to me if he did not start. And then Bradshaw, by virtue of being the most experienced player in the front court, the player with the most upside in the front court, I think he starts as well. So to me, those four are fairly locked in. But where I kind of struggled is like, who are you going to play at the power forward? And they have a lot of good guards. And I ended up starting a 3-guard lineup where I have McDaniel, Parker, as well as Givens, who's a 6'3" guard from LSU. That slides Zach Davis up to the 4. And Zach Davis is listed at 6'8". I don't know that he actually plays a lot at the power forward position. And then that puts Bradshaw at the 5, which I don't necessarily love either, especially with a lot of smaller players around him. I think that puts a little bit more pressure on Bradshaw from a rebounding perspective, which might be a bit of a challenge. But I think those are the 5 best players on this roster. And so for me, that's where I ended up going with that starting lineup. But I think there's a lot of different options here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andy, I love the way you said it as we were preparing for this show. You said, like, if Dane Danger had gotten that waiver, it all kind of locks into place. You slide Bradshaw down to the 4, you got Danger at the 5. It's almost like, you said this, it's almost like they were planning on and assuming that he was going to get that waiver, and it just didn't come together. And so that's the thing there. For my fifth guy, I'm going to slot somebody into that 4 spot as well. McDaniel, Parker, Zach Davis at the 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to go with Hassan Abdul Hakim from UTRGV. He's got that kind of requisite size, 6'8", that you see in so many modern day 4s. 13 points a game each of his first 2 years of college. Has shot 35% from 3, and then last year just shy of 33%. Had 6.8 rebounds a game last year, so could help Bradshaw. I think the problem is whoever you slot in, unless you've got somebody coming in, like if Majok can do it, for example, he's got that size, but it's just so unknown. That's the thing with all of these international guys coming over, Andy. It's just it's a whirlwind trying to figure it all out, and I don't know that we have the answers.
If Majok is that guy, if he is capable of being a day one starter, 7'1" center from South Sudan, played some time in Serbia last year professionally before coming over. Like if he's that dude, that changes the dynamic for Memphis a lot. Like I think that could really, really help this team. But if he's not that guy, which is understandable as a freshman, if he's not ready to be like a big time guy, this team could still be good, but I think that hurts them a lot. And I think it's a little, I think that's the challenge of like, it's not fair that a kid like that has got that pressure on him. Bradshaw, though, like he does have that pressure on him. Yes, like it's time for him. Like he didn't do it at Kentucky, and he had some injury issues at Kentucky, and then the role was kind of, John Calipari was being a little weird with the role for him. But then he goes to Ohio State and he plays consistently, but he didn't really break out in a major way. He was fine, but he didn't break out in a significant way. And now Penny's saying it. He direct quote from Penny Hardaway, Aaron is ready for his breakout year. And he goes on, he says, and my system will allow him to pick and pop and make decisions in the mid post and at the elbow. This will be his best year. He understands more now. If Penny's right, that could be huge for them. And I do think that their system could be great for Aaron Bradshaw. Like, I really do think that Penny is not incorrect about that. I'm not sure the depth around him is such that, what happens if he gets in foul trouble? What happens if he just has an off night? Like, is this team so dependent on him? And if so, that doesn't bode well for them having success, maybe regular season success, which they've had a lot of, but that doesn't make me feel super confident about them getting into March. That quote, by the way, from the Blue Ribbon Yearbook preview, just wanted to give them a shout out because that's some of the best college basketball content you can get every single year. But I'm excited to see what Bradshaw can do, but I do worry that Memphis and Penny's got a little bit too much pressure on him.
And Andy, if he is the X factor in this whole thing, the breakout player we want to go with is Zachary Davis, coming over from South Carolina from the Gamecocks to the Tigers. Last year, averaged 8.2 points, 4.6 boards, just over a steal in 26 minutes a game. I think gives a good opportunity to have a lot of playing time with Doug McDaniel, with Sincere Parker, right? Like if that trio could come together and you just piece it together in the front court, man, things could go well. Obviously, the level in the American Conference is not the SEC. We know how crazy the SEC was last year. And so those numbers from Davis, right, like extrapolated out, more playing time, less talent in the opposition, at least in conference play. And man, could be a big moment for Davis and the Tigers. So Andy, even though the conference play won't be as tough, man, Penny and the Tigers have assembled a really nice non-conference schedule ahead of the American Conference schedule. How will they navigate it? And will this be the year, as we talked about earlier, that Penny and the Tigers make the second weekend of the tournament? We'll have all that for you to wrap the show in just a second. Right after I tell you about Game Time, who wants to remind you that college football is back, baby? And I couldn't be more excited. I know Andy either. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why you got to use Game Time, man. It's the app that gives the advantage back to you. The easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, just a couple of taps. I'm finding amazing deals as low as $25 all over the country. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've tried to buy third-party tickets. How about this weekend? A massive SEC matchup. The Bulldogs from UGA are headed to the other side of the state of Tennessee, to Knoxville, to play the 15th ranked Vols. It's expensive to get in. $383 is the cheapest ticket right now, but as Game Time always says, watch as we get closer to kickoff and those prices might just come on down. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Andy, let's talk Memphis' schedule. The American Conference plays 18 games. That means we'll have 13 in non-con play. And as always, we want to highlight them. But the first thing I do want to mention is Memphis has really two strong exhibition games to SEC schools. They will host Arkansas. What a cool thing for Cal to come back. We'll probably talk about that more when we get closer to it. But I just love that finally we're at that moment, right, where he's going to be the guy that's done the most for Memphis basketball. That's really cool. And then Auburn 3 days later, Andy, this is October 27th and 30th. They'll play down in Atlanta for another exhibition. Let's just say, and then we'll get to the full non-con, love them taking advantage of these exhibition opportunities.
Yeah, awesome to use both these exhibition games to play high quality opponents. Obviously, the narrative story with Cal is makes it even sweeter, but playing Auburn in Atlanta is going to be fantastic. Bringing Arkansas to the house, I mean, it's just really, really fun for them to have those two teams. And then, I mean, we alluded to it a couple times. Isaac, this is a really great schedule once the games actually start counting too. And typically we kind of only read the high profile matchups, but like for this team, there's not a lot that are not worthy of reading. I mean, they open up the season November 8th against San Francisco. Yeah, that's a mid-major team, but the Dons are very, very good. And I would not be surprised at all if this San Francisco team is contending for a spot in the NCAA tournament this year. That's on November 8th. November 11th, they're on the road at Ole Miss, taking on Chris Beard's team, and then they host UNLV November 16th. Again, another mid-major team that's not exactly a mid-major, and also they're going to be facing off against Josh Pastner in that game. I hadn't put that together until right now, but that's going to be a fun one as well. So that means Pastner will be back in the house.
We need to get Tubby on this schedule somehow.
Yeah, right. I know. I got to find a way to get Tubby. After that game against UNLV, they'll go to the Bahamas. They'll take on Purdue in their first game on the 20th, and then either Texas Tech or Wake Forest on the 21st. And then they got a couple of their very few bye games, November 26th, Southern Illinois, December 3rd, New Orleans. December 6th, they're hosting Baylor, two teams that have completely brand new look rosters. By December, we'll kind of have a better sense of how those teams are playing, but that should still be a really fun game. Week later, they're at Louisville on the 13th. Then they host Vanderbilt on the 17th. Then they're at Mississippi State. That's a great 4-game stretch right there. Baylor at Louisville, Vanderbilt at Mississippi State. That's on the 20th. And then on the 22nd, they host Alabama State. And then they have a mid-season non-conference game as well. They will play at Utah State on February 14th. What a fun game. The fact that Memphis is willing to go play in Logan, Utah in the middle of February, it's awesome. That's fantastic. What a fun schedule this is. It's not the best schedule in college basketball, but it is one of the most fun, at least in my opinion, non-conference schedules in the game this year.
Well, and Andy, you can add that to what we talked about with Memphis having so much new personnel. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm shocked that they're going this all in on high major games. And this is one of those moments where we say not all mid majors are created equal. And clearly this is an example of that, because while, we say, oh, Memphis is just like school X and Y and Z playing a mid major to start the season. Look, San Francisco is not some 280th ranked school in the nation, right? And so just when you see San Francisco and UNLV and Utah State, don't just assume it's the same as some of these other schools. So really, they're 10 of these 13 games, they got a ball, man. And that's the point. So 18 AAC games, I guess we can't say that anymore. 18 American games, 6, the way they do home and away against 6 opponents. So that'll be UAB, FAU, North Texas, USF, South Florida. I mean, good grief, Andy. That's ridiculous, because that's the rest of the top of this conference. Tulane, Wichita State, home only, Charlotte, Temple, UTSA, San Antonio, away only, ECU, Rice, and Tulsa. Andy, here's the good news about playing UAB, FAU, UNT, and USF is while the American in totality is not going to, do the deal, like Houston's not here anymore, as we said earlier, they are playing twice the rest of the best teams, and that's going to help their net.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a team that was 49th in the net last year, I think is what we said, and 75th the year prior than that. They're going to be higher than that this year, like almost certainly. Like they would have to have a horrendous record in the non-conference, but if they pick up a few of these games, if they beat Baylor at home, if they beat one of the Mississippi schools on the road, if they beat Wake Forest or Texas Tech, Texas Tech will be a tough one, but if they beat Wake Forest, they can pick up enough games here. And then with, like you said, 2 against South Florida, 2 against North Texas, 2 against UAB and FAU, like this team should be in the top 40, maybe even top 35 or so in the net. Even if they don't necessarily have the biggest, most sparkly record, they don't need to go 16-2 in conference play like they did last year to barely finish top 50 in the net. Like if they go 16-2 in conference play, unless they really tank in the non-con, they're going to look much better from a net perspective.
Man, good stuff, Andy. Okay, let's make some predictions on the record and where we think they will ultimately finish. Any world in which Memphis doesn't win the American this year?
I think it's possible, but I think it's like I'm picking them. I'm picking them to finish first. If I was, if we were doing this for another team, I would not like. It's not like, oh, there's 3 teams that could win it. Like it should be Memphis. It should be Memphis, and even Memphis or the field. I'm probably still taking Memphis, but like South Florida's pretty good. Torvik's preseason rankings are out, and I think Memphis is 72nd, and South Florida's like 65th, so they're very close. I think Memphis is a more talented roster. I know Torvik's rankings or projections models will hurt a team that has 0.0% returners, which is understandable. I think that by the time conference play rolls around, Memphis will have had enough continuity that it'll be fine, but it's not the same way that we used to pick Gonzaga to win the WCC and not even have to talk about it anymore. Like this Memphis team is going to get some challenges. South Florida, Florida Atlantic, Tulane, maybe. Like there's some teams in here that are going to give them some run, but ultimately I am picking them to win it. Yeah.
Andy, schedule wise, I'm going to go 8-5 in non-con, which I think is more than, like, hey, that's fine, right? Like based on what that schedule is. I'm going to go 14-4 in conference play for a total of 22-9, winning the conference. That probably we'll get to NCAA tournament projections, but just to save a little bit of time, I'm going to say that's like a 7 seed, and I'll have them leaving in the second round and not making the second weekend.
Yeah, I got them also going 8-5. Again, the road games against Louisville and the Mississippi schools are tough. If you get 1 win out of those 3 games, I think you feel good. Purdue's brutal. That's a really tough one. I think if they lose to Purdue, they probably play Wake Forest, so I think they can pick that one up. But this is going to be a tough non-conference schedule. And then for conference play, you had 14-4. I have 13-5, so very similar. 13-5 should win this league. 14-4 almost certainly will win this league. But again, it's not going to be by a massive margin or anything. If they go 13-5, they probably win, but it might be like tied or like a half game or something like that. But that would have them 21-10 overall. And like you said, you have them as a 7 seed. I have them as an 8 seed if they're 21-10, somewhere in that kind of, that dreaded 8-9 conversation where, they may win a game, but are they making the Sweet 16 as an 8 or 9 seed? Probably not, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Let's look though floor and ceiling here quickly, because I do think that this team, especially for a team that is, a completely new look roster, I think there is a ceiling. There is a world where Penny's back to being like a 5 seed, somewhere in that range. I think there is a possibility that happens. It requires Doug McDaniel to be an All-American. It requires Aaron Bradshaw to truly break out and a couple other pieces to fall together. But I think it could happen. But the floor is really low. Like Isaac, in my mind, the floor for this team is they're not making the tournament. And it's like not even that they're on the bubble. Like the floor is what happened a few years ago when they need to win the American tournament in order to make the tournament. They lose early in that conference and they're not even sweating on Selection Sunday. Like they're getting ready for an NIT run. I don't think that's super likely, but the floor is absolutely that. Like it could 100% happen. But like we both said, we think it's more likely they're going to end up 7, 8, 9 seed range, somewhere in there. We'll see if Penny's got some magic in him to upset a 1 seed or a 2 seed and get that team back into the Sweet 16. But folks, that is going to wrap it up for us today here on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. Want to thank all of you who've made the show your first listen or your first watch of the day, as we've done now 11 of our team previews. I'm not sure exactly how many we're going to get to, but we are shooting for quite a few. So you're going to see a couple of these probably every week from now until the start of the season, which, as Isaac said, is 8 weeks away from today. So excited to have some real basketball to talk about very soon. As always, we want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wild Popes. Cheers to the Mick Bruins. And until Tuesday, Peace out.